Բարև ձեզ, գրադարանում այսօր զրուցում ենք պատերազմի եւ խաղաղության ինստիտուտի ուկրաինական ձայների նախագծի ղեկավար Օլգա Գուժվայի հետ. Hello Olga. I know you are documenting war crimes documented by journalists. Tell me a little bit about the importance of this process and how are you doing this?
Yes, we help journalists and give them the tool how they can be helpful in this process of documented war crimes. And we know that in war, the journalist and the journalism is very important because sometimes they are the only witnesses of crimes that happened. And what happened in Ukraine, for example, Irpin, Bucha, Izum, and Mariupol, and other horrible things, the world know about these facts, not about the disinformation, how the Russia want to present it, only because of the journalists, of the big pool of international journalists, Ukrainian journalists, who witnesses this and prove and give the evidence like video materials, photo materials. And when you observe the fact, it's impossible to deny that nothing happened, that people have been not killed, that civilians have been not killed. That's why it's very important to give journalists a support and understanding how they can be helpful in this process, because they sometimes have a lot of materials and sometimes they are writing and a very horrible story, and not all these materials go to the broadcasting. So they can collect these materials and give to the special department like General Prosecutor Office or different law organizations who are working in war crime fields, and help them to collect the evidence and to make it cases that then can be provided in court.
You provide special form to fill, or you provide information for journalists to aware them that they can do more rather than their journalism?
We do as simply as possible because it's very hard to create something, you know, like forms or manuals. Of course it is needed, but we like react it on demand and conduct trainings if it's possible, and it's preferable to have offline trainings and to talk with the people and to have a possibility to ask questions and give them tools. But if not, it's online format, and we invite lawyers and practitioners who work in this field, and they explain journalists and also civil activists like volunteers who also in this group, because sometimes they are the only person who have a contact with the victims in just liberated territory, or people who go through this occupied territory and evacuated. And this is very important to collect all this issue, and we just give them a tools and understanding how collect materials in proper way, what information they need to fix to help police to find these witnesses and to make a case.
Maybe you have your own monitoring system as well to monitor the materials and to approach the journalists?
If we're talking about IWPR, we have justice monitors, and we produce it weekly. And in these justice monitors, we collect and track different cases. And our task is not only to talk about horrible things and about cases and personal story, but also to show and to track what happened next. And this is very important because all crimes should be punished and proceed to the court. And we track, for example, how they collect an evidence, how they categorize all these materials, how they work in these cases. For example, in Ukraine now we have more than 54,000 cases, war crimes cases, that already categorized and already ready to be proceed to the court. So it is very important to people and also to the international community know what happened, and that these terrorists, these like criminals, they should be punished. And we know, and we're working about mechanism, for example, national tribunal for Russia, that it is also very important.
You mentioned a number of the war crimes, and we all know about Bucha, Irpin, and so on. But can you tell some stories told by journalists, untold stories?
I can tell my personal story because I spent in the front line more than 8 months with an international team of journalists from Norway, and we prepare some materials for the Minister of Defense of Norway. So I heard a lot of stories personally, and I want to say and state that 50,000 cases, it's only a start, because a lot of cases still unknown because people are not able to talk about this, or not possibility to apply to the police because of absence connections, and it is really very hard for them. The same situation like in Bucha and Irpin you can observe in Kharkiv region, for example, and this Izum and different kind of villages, Ruskaya Lozova and other where it was occupation, they faced the same violence, and they tortured people, tortured civilians, and also Kherson and Mariupol, and people who evacuated from this territory and go through the filtration camp and spend in this filtration camp sometimes more than 15 days. And it's a really horrible story that you even can aware. And the most difficult situation when you ask a questions, you're afraid to hear this story in details, because you understand that people talk not emotionally, and this is frightened. Because they're talking about torture, how they kill the people, how they bury the relatives or neighbors near the houses, how they kill the children, how they rape children, and especially when you're a mother and have a daughter of this age, it's like things that you never can aware. You even can accept that this is situation in real world can exist. So I don't know what kind of details do you want to hear, but it's a very sensitive issue, and all these horrible things happen now with Ukrainians, and they focusing on civilian, and they tasked to kill and to destroy it as more as possible, and to I don't know why they do a lot of horrible things with Ukrainian, with the mission to protect and to save the Ukrainian, and it's like a really horrible situation, and people need to recover of this situation. But what impressed me a lot that even that people aware that for them it's very hard to talk about these details, and very hard talked about when the children have been killed or raped or something like this. They're aware that they need to talk about this. And this is really impressive. And you understand the importance of the job of journalist, because you just share this information, make it public, and this means that everyone knows that it is a crime. It's like things that need to be punished, and all the community, global community, need to unite it, because Ukrainians stand not only for the freedom for the country, but they stand for the basic human rights, and they stand for the humanity, because it's a challenge not only for Ukrainians, it's a challenge for all the community, world community, because if we just say that, oh, it's okay, it's horrible, but what we can do, it means that we legalize the crimes, we legalize that the other country came to the other territory, killed people because they are different, because they live different lives and speak different language, and they can kill and rape their children and destroy their houses. And if we just be tolerant and natural, that means that we accept this and we legalize the crimes.
Journalists who covered the stories, they need not only physical security but also psychological support, because hearing all the story, facing all the story and retholding, it's psychologically not easy. What are you doing to support journalists who are working on the front lines?
This is a very important issue. I want to say that safety and security issue, as you said, consists of three parts. First, it's safety, security, and risk planning. And this is very important to know how to behave in the front line, planning the trips and how to communicate with military and how to combine a different scenario. For example, what happened if we lost a car or we...
Plan A, plan B, plan C.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to be very flexible and you need to communicate inside the teams during and discuss this editorial task. And editorial task also should be very flexible. And the editorial team need to aware that the safety and security is the first and the task is the second, because good pictures and even a very prompt and important story do not value human's life. If you died or if you have been injured, it nothing. It's not value like this, and this is very important issue. Then the personal protective equipment and medical kit, and also the knowledge about the tactical medicine, how they use a tourniquet and how they give the first aid. And we conduct a lot of trainings in frontline city for the journalists who do not choose to work in frontline or not, because frontline come to their homes and they need to deal with this. And this is very important because a lot of journalists do not have this training before. Even if we have not only Ukrainian but international also, they are not prepared, do not have these practical skills. And if you're in a front line, you need to have the skills like automatically, because this is like seconds that can save your life. And the third very important issue is, of course, psychological support and your readiness to be in such kind of situation like artillery shooting, and if someone is injured or if you're conduct interview and ask it questions, you have to be ready to hear this horrible story about how they tortured the relatives and how the people have been killed. Or
live with the stories.
Yeah, and this is a very important issue because it's still a problem, and the journalists have this traumatic experience all the time. First, when they ask a question, second, they write a material, and they live with all the story, because not all they can show to the audience, and not all is needed to be shown to the audience. So the like systematical psychological support is unsolved problem, not only for Ukrainian but also for international journalists. But for international, it's a little bit easy because they work in these horrible conditions and they go home and have a different situation and just change. They can talk with their psychologist or with friend. But for Ukrainian, it's a very hard task because they not only work in these conditions, they have to live in this condition. And their relatives can be in occupied territories. Their relatives can be like soldiers in the front line. So it's like a systematical traumatic experience for the journalist community in Ukraine.
Thank you, Olga, for the interview.
Okay, thank you.